you'll never have a baby. It'll be really hard for you to conceive. So I was starting to get sort of like a cold. I was really tired. I knew something was off. And he's looking at me and he's like, why are you happy that I've got a virus? What's going on? And then my husband looks at me and he's like, you're pregnant. Also, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Laura. To bring you up to speed, I met, got engaged, got married, and got pregnant all within a year of meeting my husband. It's been a whirlwind to say the least, and the story continues. I need to go way back to the beginning of my teenage years of when I actually got my first period. I was 17 years old, which is a lot later than most people. It's sort of like a funny story where I was at church and I was on slide projector where I'm changing the slides, and I just felt overwhelmed with sort of pain, nausea, and because it was my first period, I sort of had no idea what was going on. And I looked to my sister and I said, Claire, I need to go get some fresh air. Can you keep going on with the slides so everyone can see the next song? And can you take over? And then what ended up happening was, I thought I said that, but what I ended up saying was Claire, and then I just passed out. Just the pain was so intense. And then I got whisked away to the hospital and I got diagnosed with PCOS. And PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's where my eggs don't fully mature, and it means that a lot of the time they don't get released, instead a cyst forms. And it means that I go really long times without having a period, and then when I do have a period, it's incredibly painful. So all my life for the past decade, this has been my story. I've been seeing loads of healthcare professionals, doctors, naturopaths, and that has actually been a beautiful journey, because it has inspired me to look how I can better balance my hormones through food, through diet, through exercise, through sleep, through prayer, meditation. Despite what doctors were saying that PCOS is something that never gets better, you can never be healed from, it just gets worse and worse and worse, I was starting to see improvements, and I was starting to see my period start to come back and to normalize. And that was so amazing in itself. But yet I still had doctors tell me, you'll never have a baby. It'll be really hard for you to conceive. If you conceive at all, it will be a miracle. You'll most likely have to go through IVF. Most women on this journey don't ever conceive naturally. And so that is what I was told from the age of 17. That was the narrative that I was telling myself for years. And yet when I met my husband a year ago, he is just as passionate as I am about health and nutrition and sleep, which is amazing. And he helped me along this journey as well. And he was even doing his own studies on how to improve sort of a female cycle. And I was getting tests done, and my testosterone levels were off the chart. I had flare-ups of acne. I had all these sorts of symptoms that are really common with people with PCOS. And then as we were preparing for marriage, we had the conversation about what sort of contraception do we want to be on. As I was seeing progress with my periods, as I was seeing them become more and more regular, they were still quite far apart. My cycle was about 40 days. That was still quite a long period. I was telling him, I really don't want to go on any form of contraception that will disrupt my hormones. And that's in itself is really hard to find, because so many contraceptions disrupt your hormones. The option we ended up going with was the natural family planning method, which is where you track your temperature, you track your cervical mucus, your emotions, feelings, the height of your cervix, all this sort of stuff. And so we did that for 3 months. It was going really good, I thought. And then come the 4-month mark, where suddenly, and I was starting to experience all these symptoms. I was starting to get sort of a cold. I was really tired, and I knew something was off. And I didn't think I was pregnant, because, okay, this is just getting TMI a little bit, but we're going there. Because I had a 40-day cycle. You ovulate roughly halfway through, which means I would ovulate around day 20. So we had sex on day 10, which, if you know, sperm lasts 6 days or so. that's still plenty of safe time in our window before I was gonna technically ovulate. However, what ended up happening was I ended up miraculously ovulating on day 13, which just makes no sense whatsoever, because that would be indicative of me having a 26, 27 day cycle, which I've never, ever had in the history of my life. I have never had a regular or early cycle like that. And so it was just miraculous for my body to suddenly ovulate. One in itself, that was always a miracle. I was always thanking God that I was ovulating, but it was a miracle that I ovulated so early. The sperm lasted the 3 days, and that my uterus lining and everything was working perfectly to hold on to the baby in those first few weeks. Honestly, it's incredible how a baby can be made. Like, it truly is, like, all the things that have to go right, it's miraculous in itself just to get pregnant. However, I knew it would be so much more harder given my situation. And so come day 40 of my cycle, and my period hadn't come, I was getting these weird symptoms. I was just really tired all the time. I would lie down in bed and then get up to brush my teeth and then go, I need to lie back down again. That was so exhausting. I'm so tired. I love coffee, and suddenly coffee just starts smelling a bit funny and not really nice. And my husband is a chef and makes delicious food, and he'd be making me dinner, and I'm like, oh baby, that doesn't smell very good. So I thought I had a virus. I thought I had some sort of flu. And at around day 40, 41, my husband said, let's go to the doctor. You're not okay. I think you've got a virus, and you're just totally zapped of energy. You're not yourself. Let's go to the doctor. And so we went to this cute little hospital in like country, rural-ish Queensland, in Babinda Hospital. Filled out a form, got asked lots of questions by a doctor, and they had to ask, is there a chance that you're pregnant? And I said, well, like, sure, there's a chance, but like, no, because I have PCOS and we've been tracking our cycle, and like, no, but like, maybe, but like, no, you know. And it's like, no worries, we'll do all the tests, we'll figure it out. And I was like, great, cool, yeah, because I'm pretty sure I've got like a virus. I've got a virus, that's what's going on. So I just need like rest, right? And it's like, don't worry, we'll do all the tests. Just pee in this cup and come back and I'll do some other tests. Like, he took my temperature, took my blood pressure, all these sorts of things. Everything came back normal. We're at the hospital. I've given my pee, and now we're just gonna wait. He came back in the door and came back with a test and said, so this is for you. And then I look at it, and it looked like a COVID test. So I think that's what he's tested for, a virus. And it was positive. And I looked at him, I looked at my husband, I said, see, I told you, I got COVID, I got a virus, that's what it is. And then the doctor's like, no. Then I look over at my husband, and he's looking at me, and he's like, ah! And I'm like, why are you happy that I've got a virus? Like, what? Wait, what's going on? What's going on? And then my husband looks at me, and he's like, you're pregnant. And at that point, everything just went blurry. I started crying, and he started crying, and the doctor's like, happy tears? Yeah, and we're like, yeah. And then he's like, okay, I'll give you a minute. And he goes, okay, my husband is so excited. He has been happy to have kids from day dot. Like, it's been me who's like, no, let's spend time, you and I, together. Let's go traveling. Let's like have a bit of a life together before we have kids. But he's been like, we can do all that sort of stuff with kids. Kids will make it more enriching. And he was just over the moon. He was just like, oh my gosh, this is the best news ever. And I was just there going like, how could this happen? How, like, this can't be, how? I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I can't believe there's a baby inside of me. That doesn't make sense. I can't. Like, I'd say, like, how? But I know how. But like, in my head, I'm like, I will have a baby when my finances and my career is set up and I have my house and I've done and lived my life and done my travels and whatever, and then I can settle down and have a family. And I'm like, my husband and I hadn't even known each other a year and we've got a baby. And I'm like, what? And so I start freaking out a little bit. And then we start really talking about it to each other and saying, you know what, actually, this is a real miracle that my body was able to make a baby. All good and perfect things come from above. You know, the Bible talks about how much children are a blessing and they're a gift. And even though it doesn't make sense in my timeline, in my order of things, or how I would have planned to have a baby, I'm holding on to such peace, going this is a miracle and a gift from you, God. So even though I can't work out how it's gonna make sense financially, where we're gonna live, how we're gonna make money, how we're gonna support this family, I'm holding on to such peace, going even though it doesn't make sense for me, it makes sense to God and it's perfect in His timing. And it was very a very quick turnaround when we're at the hospital for me to go what the heck, to oh my gosh, thank you, God, what a blessing. And so we just start crying and we start hugging and holding each other, and yeah, it was a really beautiful moment. We're gonna have a baby.
We're gonna a warrior, a philosopher,
a king.
And a king.
Yeah. We're gonna have warriors, philosophers, and kings. Gonna be the best ones.
That's good.
But I just wanted to encourage you, if you're like me and you're very logical, and you just like having control and order, and that brings you peace over your situation, my encouragement is just to let go, to breathe and let God take the reins, let God take the wheel, because His ways are higher. He knows the beginning, middle, and end of our story. When you sort of let go and let God write your story, it's just so much more beautiful than we could ever imagine. And it's knowing that He's got our future in His hands. That's what brings peace beyond all understanding. I want to do it God's way and His way and not my way. And so stay thankful, stay grateful for the season you're in, stay hopeful, and hold on to God's word as an anchor in your life. Hold on to His peace and His comfort when it doesn't make sense. Thank Him that He's got you in the palm of His hand. Honestly, I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that I'm pregnant, because it's just such a miracle. That was a bit of a ramble, but let me know if I missed anything, or you have any further questions, or if you too have been struggling with PCOS. I'd love to pray for you. And yeah, I think that's about it. Okay. All right, well, I'll leave it there, and sending you lots and lots of love, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.